VeeFam, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the VeeFam Sessions. My name is Mr. Messer, but you can call me Rob, and I am so humbled and happy to have the record holder for featherweight knockdowns in the UFC history here, a perennial top 10 MMA fighter, owner of One Punch Cards, VeeFriend, but more importantly, fantastic human being, Mr. Josh Emmett. Josh, this is so cool for me. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh man, it's great to be here.
Man, I've gotten some context over you from the last few weeks. You're onto the moon in the streams. But just to hear the way you're talking about Topps Chrome and like the energy of what's happening in VeeFriends right now, like makes my heart so happy. Just because you're just kind of this sports figure in a very popular MMA world, but like it just kind of brings home the notion that VeeFriends is for everybody. You know what I mean? From all walks of life, public figures, anyone with an internet dial up, or anyone that wants to
Mhm.
just be a part of something that people with positive traits are hanging out. So this is so fun. So thrilled to have you. I like to take it back before we get into One Punch, before VeeFriends and UFC and all of that. I like to take it back to the beginning. So if you could give us like the 55-second Cliff Note version, I call it, of Josh's come up, up until you got into the professional fighting game.
Yeah, my mother raised. She was a single mother. She raised my older brother and I. And it's like I'd say I have my mom is the sweetest, most selfless person. Would do anything for us, but it was a tough upbringing. But at the end of the day, there was two things in my life that I wanted to do. The only two things I ever wanted to do was be a professional athlete, and I was not thinking about MMA. I was thinking about football or basketball at the time, or a police officer, and that was just to help families like what we were going through and dealing with. But that's kind of my upbringing as a child, and then it's yeah, I would say that's a longer than 55 second, but quick one for you.
So it sounds like you were anyone that is striving to be a police officer. You were on like, not to like totally put people in buckets, but you were on like the right side. You always had good intentions, good heart. Like you wanted to do right by people.
Yeah, of course, and at a young age, it's like I was maybe I saw and went through things that maybe children shouldn't have to experience, and I just wanted to. I was like a mediator for my mother at a young age, just because at the end of the day, it was I was a family and stuff, like brother, father, things like that. It was like a lot of like mental illness and addiction and stuff like that. And so, my mom was my person, and I felt like I had to do whatever I had to do to protect her. And yeah, that's why I wanted to be a police officer, just to, help families like us. And yeah, so that's always been who I am.
I love that. I grew up with a single mom too, and it's so much of it just watching it, and just now that I'm older, like being able to be like, oh, like this is how she was seeing the world. Now that I have kids, just like has helped shape me so much. It changes the way you see the world. Being a mom is one of the hardest jobs out there, but being a single mom is a whole other planet. So shout out to, if you're doing the single mom thing, hat tip to you.
And even this is a side note, but I actually just partnered with Circles. It's an app, and I'm doing this huge Mother's Day giveaway. I don't know if you saw that. I have on my Instagram right now. If people
You did.
follow the steps, because it is Mother's Day coming up. It's literally I'm doing a dinner for two to their favorite spot, a spa day for two, and $1,000 shopping spree or cash value, whatever they want to do. So people could enter the contest, and it ends on May 12th.
That's amazing, Josh. That's so cool. And we'll definitely, I'm gonna plug that. Absolutely. I know it's a tight turnaround, but we'll definitely amplify that. Um, you wrestled growing up. Did you? I heard football. When did you catch that bug? I was a late bloomer, but I was a wrestler too. So that if there, I'm just trying to have any comp with you as possible.
Yeah, no, man, let's see. I So early on, my mom, she was always working. She's like, you guys have to find something to do. And so my older brother, he found Taekwondo and chose that. And so I was like, I want to do that too. And originally that's what I was going to do as well. But then, we would always fight at home. And then my mom was like, you guys are going to learn how to actually fight, and then you're going to bring it back. So she decided, since he's older, he gets to do that. And then she came to me, Josh, you need to find something else. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like in first grade. What do I know? You know what I mean? So she was looking around and she found acrobatics. So it was tumbling. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. And I ended up, she took me to a practice and, I actually fell in love with it. It wasn't what I thought as a young child. I got to meet a lot of interesting people like coaches and older people that I looked up to as, being in first grade. And I felt like that was my foundation to who I am. I tumbled. So I wish I could find the pictures. I used to have pictures. I was in like second grade and I had a six pack. I was just a little short, stocky guy, but, gymnasts and stuff, look at their physiques. And so that was literally my foundation. And then I was an athletic kid, so I played every sport possible. But I found wrestling when I was in middle school, and I started wrestling at a young age. Wrestled through college, and um, I used it as a tool to get my degree. And knowing that I wanted to pursue MMA, and I was a fan of that, it was all kind of part of the plan. But I played every sport growing up, but wrestling was something that I fell in love with, and it was an individual sport. And so if I won or lost, it was all on me. There was no, and I wouldn't make excuses in general or blame someone else, a team, but you can't cheat that. I go out there, I'm the only one in there. And that's how I feel like I relate so well to MMA as well.
5'4", athletic build. So football was never in the cards for me. Basketball was never in the cards for me. But I gravitated towards wrestling and tennis. But wrestling, still to this day, has shaped so much of who I am as a person. I know you're no stranger to weight cutting. Like that was big part of my story. And we'll get into some of the VeeFriends traits and the overlap in a sec. But like, man, does it give you a sense of self and what you can achieve when you really believe in yourself, either for doing it for you or for your team or your coach or whatnot. But I just want to touch on your MMA career here before we jump into everything else. So 2011, you turned pro, go 9-0 in the amateur circuit before going to
Regional, yeah,
UFC in
regional.
2016.
Yep, yeah. So I had a few amateur fights. I did two amateur fights, and then I was a professional fighter, but I was just on the regional scene. I went 9-0. I was so close to getting in the UFC multiple times. I almost got on the Ultimate Fighter a few times. I was about ready to hang it up, and then I got the call on short notice. I was one of the top prospects in the country to go, so 5-day notice. Made my UFC debut in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. Flew across the world, cut a bunch of weight, won my first fight in the UFC, and that's kind of how everything started. And that was in 2016. It was actually May 8th, 2016. I made my UFC debut. So yesterday was my 9-year anniversary being in the UFC.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's at what point, I guess we're bouncing around now. At what point was that the goal? Was the UFC on the bulletin board of like I'm gonna go for this?
Yeah, since very kind of young age. So I started watching the UFC back in '99, and that's when I was a freshman. And in high school, and what I mentioned earlier with my best friend Johnny, who was 2 years older than me. And I always thought, I was like, man, I could do this. And coming from a wrestling background, I was delusional then. I was like, I could beat these guys, but I would have got, they would have hurt me really bad. And then I've always been a fan of the sport. And as I got older and I graduated high school, I wrestled at a junior college in Sacramento. 2003 and '05, I was wrestling there. At one of our meets in 2005, Uriah Faber and Scott Smith, they came into Sac City and they were handing out flyers that they were going to open a MMA gym in my hometown, my backyard. I had no money to pursue this crazy dream of mine. I was like, after the season's up, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna sign up for classes because I do want to pursue this and see where am I? Can I do this? I have such high self belief in myself, and so you have to have that. So I went in there in '05, was taking the classes for a few months. Uriah Faber came up to me, and he has an eye for talent. So he's like, "Do you want to fight?" And I said, "Yeah, that's why I'm here." So he invited me to a pro practice. I went in there, and it was very humbling. When people start to throw kicks at me, and there's jujitsu and I shoot a double leg, and maybe my chin is down a little. You get guillotined very easy. So I learned real quick how to defend a guillotine. And, I got kicked in the head, and I've never had someone throw a head kick at me. Um, that was pretty interesting. But so I was training there for a while. I was getting hit up from colleges to go wrestle, Midwest, East Coast. I didn't want to leave home. I was still pretty young. And so I got offered by some of the coaches, contacted me from Menlo College. That was in the Silicon Valley in the Bay Area. So it was about a 2 hour drive from Sacramento. I went down there, did a recruiting trip. I liked the coaches. I liked that it was a private small college in Atherton, California. And I decided like I need to get out of Sacramento if I want to get my degree. So this was where it was really part of my plan. I was like, and this is in 2007. I ended up going down to Menlo. My girlfriend at the time, you know, now my wife, we went down there. I was like, I'm gonna get my degree in case fighting doesn't work out for me. Then it'll transition over well to policing. I can become a police officer. But my real intention was to get better wrestling at the 4 year level, which would transition into MMA. So I went down there for 3 years to the day, 2007 to 2010. Came back to Sacramento and in 2010, trained for a few months, and then had my first amateur fight. And when I started later than most, I was like 25, 26 for my first amateur fight. In my mind, I said if I lost an amateur fight, because I only wanted to fight for the UFC, it was UFC or nothing for me. Um, if I lost the amateur fight, I'm kind of crazy. What makes it think that, or what makes me think I can get to the UFC and fight some of the best guys in the world if I cannot win an amateur fight? So I did two amateur fights, won those, went pro, and then that's kind of where it was just nonstop. I was fighting as consistent as I possibly could, and with the only goal of getting to the big show where I got offered to fight in a lot of other promotions and I turned them down. I even remember Uriah coming up to me and saying, "Man, we can go to Bellator. We can do this. What do you want to do?" I said, "I'm only fighting in the UFC. If I lost on the regional scene, I'm done fighting as well because it's going to take me a long time to get back to like where you started to make a name for myself." But I must have been like 2-0 at the time. And when Uriah knew I was only going to the UFC, he said, "You're one of the best fighters in the world. Just nobody knows it yet." And at the time, I was like, "What is this guy talking about?" But then I zoom out. I'm like, he was right. He has an eye for talent. Recruited people from all over the place, and they came from a wrestling background, but he saw talent in 'em and built them up to some people. Became world champions. Some people fought for the world title multiple times. When I think about it now, I'm like, he was right. He saw it, but I was thinking he was crazy at the time.
There's a lot there, but to have you just unwavering from the eyes on the prize, like this is what I'm going for,
And
is
that
fascinating.
and that's where it is. Just man, and so many more things involved in that. Just so much adversity and ups and downs and highs and lows, and things where am I ever going to make it? And I just I just yeah, I made it happen. And going back to, touch on my friend Johnny and his wife Felice, which is a family to us, they allowed my wife and I to move in with them. And so I could pursue fighting full time. So I trained Monday through Friday. Um, and we worked at a CrossFit gym. We owned a CrossFit gym. And then I worked at a group home on Saturday, Sunday, where I did like 12 to 14-hour shifts just so I could train the whole week. And they're like, you don't have to pay any rent. They believed in me as well. This crazy dream that I had of that's the percent is so small. It's like I don't even know how many featherweights are in the UFC, and this is across the entire world. It's got to be less than 100. So do the math on that. 100 people out of what 8 billion people. But they had so much belief in me and saw my work ethic and just know me as a person. And so I owe so much to them. And that's why Johnny, Felice, my wife, and mom, they always get tickets to the fight. And yeah, just because they did so much for me. And, we're their children's godparents. And yeah,
Mm.
it's wild. And even touching on my wife, like I almost hung up the gloves because I was taking her along for this crazy ride too. Like I'm almost 30 years old. We're living in our friend's room, or we're kind of bouncing back and forth between my mom or, studios, because I'm trying to pursue this crazy dream of mine. And I felt bad for my wife, but I was literally, by the time Dana White kept saying, win one more fight, I would beat a guy that's a UFC vet. I would knock him out, never been knocked out. Okay, I should be in. Win one more fight. Kept saying that over and over. And I was getting discouraged, and I was like, I need to contribute to society. I need to get a real job so I can, provide for my wife and, family and stuff like that. And so she was the one. She said, I know you're upset, but let's give it one more year. If you don't get in the UFC by this date in 1 year, then you can start to pursue other avenues. And I was like, okay, I listened to her, and I got the call, and then, flew across to the Netherlands, like I said.
Wow. That's amazing. Fighters, my sister, going back to the wrestling thing, I have two
Hmm.
younger sisters, single mom, helped raise them, when we were young. And my youngest sister wanted to wrestle. And it was still an era where like that was not the thing. So although I beat the shit out of her all the time, as kids, I said, you can't wrestle. Uh, and I did not support it, which I regret now, being wiser. But long story short, she grew up and walked into a gym a decade ago, and she became a pro fighter, black belt jiu-jitsu. I think she's 5-2 now. She got in with Invicta, and now she just got drafted to I don't know if you know the Global Fight League.
Yep.
I don't know who's running that, but she's on Holly Holm's team and St. Preux. Like
Wow.
she got some characters on that team. So I hope it does well. But long story short, like I know fighters are just built like different. Like it takes a special kind of person to do what you guys do, which brings me to the resiliency thing. Now, because she's been through her fair share of injuries, and I've seen the what that does when you can't do your job. Like that, you're a pro fighter. So you mentioned your pro amateur debut. Did I read that you broke your hand in the first round and still won?
My first pro fight ever. It was first round. It was probably like the first like 40 seconds, and I went back to the corner after that round. I told my coaches my hands broke. They said, "Good thing you got elbows. Use your elbows and take him down." And I said, "Okay." And then I did that. It was just kind of flopping around in there. But yeah, it's so man, it's so tough. Like what the body takes, especially in combat sports, let alone MMA.
So yeah, I mean, just to run down obviously, please correct me if I'm wrong here. This is just my homework. So you broke your hand there. You're out for 10 months. 2018, and this is, for the UFC community, you probably know the whole Jeremy Stevens thing with the elbows and your facial surgery with the knees and the elbows to your face. You missed some time there. ACL tear in 2020, 2021, so you missed a whole bunch of time there. Like that's if that's your livelihood, financially, plus like, your and I heard you mention how regimented your schedule is. Like that takes a toll on you. Making a VeeFriends comp, like Brazilian Red Devil, like you have to battle so much more than the physical injury that you have to overcome. How do you get yourself in that frame of mind to do that when you're
Yeah.
out for a year at a time?
Yeah, and it is tough because it's like, sometimes it's like UFC fighters, we don't we're not getting paid like some NBA and NFL stars. So it's like it is tough because this is what I do full time. And man, but that's something like I was saying earlier, like some of my strongest attributes are my mindset. My mindset. No one will ever mentally break me. I have such high self-belief in myself. I'm resilient as hell. I don't give a damn. Even when I set a goal, it's like I become obsessed with things, and it's like if I want something, like I cannot stop thinking about it or working towards it until I achieve that goal. I don't know. I don't know where this was like instilled in me, or it's just I think from my upbringing. I know it is. Just it's been a part of me since I was a young child. I don't know where it came from because it's hard to teach things like that, and even just being so disciplined when I'm in camp. And you were talking earlier about weight cuts and stuff like that. I am so disciplined. I have to be because like cutting weight, and I would cut quite a bit of weight, and I work with some of the best dietitians in the game, but I am so regimented. Like it's like it's Groundhog's Day. I wake up, I do the same thing over and over and over again. It's actually really boring, but for me at least. But I have to do it because even a pound or 2 pounds, it's like it is so challenging. So I'm obsessed with numbers and stuff. I can go back to when I made my first or I had my first featherweight fight in the UFC, and that was back in 2017. I track my weight and when I wake up, AM, PM, how much water I drank, workouts I did, so I can refer back to my notes where I'm at in the fight. I can be like 5.5 weeks out. I refer back to all of my featherweight fights, and I can say I'm
Wow.
above or I'm behind schedule by a pound or 1.6 pounds. To the T because it is man, it's so wild.
That's so wild to think about. Uh, yeah, I mean, I've not done it to the level as you, but I remember Super Bowl Super Bowl of 2020 2004 when we missed a practice because of a snow day, and I decided to eat a little bit on the Super Bowl Sunday. I walked in to Tuesday practice 10 pounds over for a Wednesday night match, and those are 24 hours I'll never forget because
It sounds like
lifting
my
weight was not an option.
I know my college days. It's just like and just yo-yo diets and stuff like that were so difficult. It's like Monday, you're saying come in there, and then we'd always have Wednesday meets, and then typically we'd have a Saturday tournament. Whether it's Saturday, Sunday, and it's like so I'm cutting weight, gaining it, cutting weight, but now I'm just a little more disciplined in and out of camp.
Mm. I mentioned resiliency. We got the resilient Red Devil, great VeeFriends character. We also have Empathy Elephant. Double clicking into some of your content, stories, listening to your talk, like the amount of empathy you have is for other people is so refreshing, especially being a professional figure in a sport where people are so quick to judge, like, it's barbaric, like they're just beating the shit out of each other, like that kind of a thing. Like they're actually humans. But just listening to some of your media and, I can't, you probably get this brought up all the time, but the Bryce Mitchell knockout is all time. A lot of views probably on that thing. But like you throw a vicious, one your business is called One Punch Cards. Like it takes one punch from Josh Emmett to be, lights out, counting lights if you're conscious. So, however, the way you react in post game interviews and with the media is couldn't be more refreshing because you humanize the people on the receiving end of these things. I love your quote because the MMA media they like a good headline and kind of
Oh yeah,
poke and
clickbait.
prod. I don't need to educate you on that, but they want a good clip. However, one of the ones I love from you is I treat people the way they treat me. Um, so you could have a really nasty altercation inside the cage, but outside, you're just a good guy, just doing his job. So, and going back to the Bryce Mitchell thing, a headline that caught my eye was, it was hard to celebrate. The ultimate for you guys is to have like a big knockout moment, like you win the fight, like that's your job. But when you really do damage, it's hard to celebrate. I I don't know if I have a question there, but more just like as from one guy to another, just someone that appreciates. I just wanted to get that message across.
Oh, thank you. And that's how I literally, um, you know, it is tough. And so I look at this very different. It's like you said, like I treat people the way they treat me. Sometimes people see me, and if they have not met me, they'll literally look at me and they think I'm some like scary, mean, intimidating guy. And then they meet me in person, and they're like, then it's a full 180. They're like, I can't believe you fight. You know what I mean? And it's just how I am, and that's what even like people that know me, they're like even just with different like say sponsorships, partnerships, they're like, man, once you meet Josh, then you'll love him, and so that's I don't know. I love all the kind words and stuff like that, but it's like I've always been the person that I am. Nothing's changing. People, I'm in the UFC. It's an entertainment business. People are like, oh, you need to start talking shit. You need to be like Connor. I'm said that's not me. I'm not going to do that. I don't know what these people are going through, and I'm especially not going to talk shit about somebody that I don't know. And treating people the way they treat me. Like I'm a very nice person. You could say a kind warrior. And going back to your thing, like the headstrong honey badger. I love all these characters. I relate to these characters. Um, but if someone treats me like I'm not going to take someone's opinion. If someone doesn't like them, I will meet them and then I'll make the decision whether I like them or not. They treat me well, I like that person. If someone is, not kind to, especially like my wife or my family or friends, trust me, I can, dish it back. But typically that's not the case. And so I know I'm kind of like rambling off on all these things,
No, that
but even with Bryce, it's like, he's a character, but at the end of the day, he's a human being. And so when people are, constantly like, anytime he goes on a podcast, my phone starts blowing up, and they're tagging me like, oh, you did this to him, and because he has some crazy thoughts. Um, but I'm just like, I feel bad. I feel bad for him, because he has such a large platform. I'm just like, he I think he's a good person. Every interaction I've had with the guy, he is so kind, and he's just like, even when I was fighting him, like I would see him constantly at the hotel, and he's just like, oh, hey Josh. I'm like, hey, and then the day of the fight, we crossed paths in the hotel before we're going to the arena to fight each other, and he's with his coach, and he says, God bless you, Josh. And I was like, man, can you at least look at me crazy, or can you like say something that kind of pisses me off? But I was like, man, I said, ah, man, right back at you. Like and then obviously, like you said, it's like I want to go in there, and every time first punch I land, put him away, get a bonus, get 3 checks, and go home healthy. I always, when I step in the octagon, I'm hoping that my opponent and I get out of there injury free, because we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We all have, family and friends, on both ends. So it's like, it's just such a, ah, man, it's such a crazy sport or career, whatever the hell you want to call what I do. It's not a game. And so when I go in there and I do exactly what I want, but then, he's out, it's bad. He's out. He's seizing up. He's convulsing. Like, the entire arena at the T-Mobile was silent. Like, people thought like it may be his last fight. He may not, get up. It was really bad. So when I look over, it's such a like a animalistic, um just sport. It's like we're modern day gladiators. I can't really explain like the emotions and everything that go into a 8 to 10 week camp, and then just it all comes out at the end, and certain things from media and journalists and things that he's saying or opponents are saying in interviews. Like, I remember all this stuff, and so like it all comes out, and then I look over and that's happening, and I'm just like, man, I can't celebrate. I have to take a knee. I hope the best. He wakes up and everything is okay, and I pray for him, and that's how I am. It's I see things from, both sides.
yeah. Well, it's very cool that you're out in front talking about it, because like that gives a lot of people that are like not sure, like they're towing the line, like do I have a whole shtick like a Connor,
Yeah.
or like this, or like do I voice like what I'm actually feeling? And I bet more people are feeling the latter, but it's people like you that are going to give them permission to, directly or indirectly.
And,
So
and that's where, like, even with the fight too, like I've had so many walk-off knockouts when I hit them. It's like I have so much self-control, and I know, like, I'm very aware of what's going on in there. You'll see some people say they black out and zone out, don't know what's going on. It's work to me. I've been doing this for so long. Like, I also feel a lot of things. People are like, good thing you have the adrenaline, you don't feel anything. I'm like, trust me, I feel it. You just have to have a poker face. Like, I've been in fights before because I know if the roles are reversed and I hit someone and I rock them or they start backing up, I can see when people are starting to break, and then I'll press them, because it's like, you went out, I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna get you out of there. Here you go. Like, I'll make them give up. And so I've been hit in fights where I've been rocked. I step forward, but I'm like, my head's spinning, but I step forward because I know if I step back, they may like recognize that, because that's what I would do. So I'll step forward and act like it doesn't phase me. It's just like literally a poker face, and you,
yeah,
you have to hide these
it's a
things. But
game.
oh, I feel a
It's
lot of
it's a
things.
it's a game within a game. So
Exactly.
fun. I appreciate you
Human
jamming with
chess.
me on this. So to tie the bow on this kind of chapter, do you have a next fight scheduled yet or no?
No, nothing yet. Unfortunately, in my last fight, I actually broke my hand, so I just have to. I had 4 to 6 weeks. It was a clean break, so no surgery needed. So I actually get another image in about a week, and then if the bone's healing well and there's not a lot of pain, I don't have to wear the soft brace. But if it's still kind of bothering me, which it is, probably another 2 to 3 weeks in the soft cast. So I'm hoping to get back into training probably in June. Like I'm doing things like riding a bike and stuff like that, and I need to get back on like a strict diet. But hopefully I'll be back in training by June, and then realistically, I'm thinking September I'll fight. I'm not going to force anything. I still want to get 2 fights this year, but again, if I get one in September and everything goes well and I feel great and I can turn around and do it again in December, great. But then again, I don't want to force it. If I don't get the second one in, then I'll fight early January, February. But for sure, I'll get one more. Shooting for two this year.
Very good. Well, I know you're going to have a lot of the V fam in your corner
Yeah, I'm
next
excited.
whenever that happens. Um, so with that, I guess when was the first time you heard the name Gary Vee that you remember?
Man, it's got to be a while ago, and people have asked me about this. It's like I've been watching him on like social media and stuff, and he's so damn like inspirational, and just like listen to him talk and the energy he brings, and he's real. So he says things how they are, and it's I absolutely love that. And I saw him on Joe Rogan's the JRE podcast a long time ago, and then you know it was kind of crazy even when he was like I just kind of manifest a lot of things, and with his empathy wine in Napa, I was signing up for the wine to be a member. I'm like, it's 90 minutes from us, maybe an hour. And I was like, I'm gonna do something with Gary eventually. I was fighting. Even before that, did he launch the K Swiss shoe before the wine? I believe he did.
Yes. Yes.
So I got a message from him and someone from the team talking about, hey, we'd like to maybe send you out a pair of shoes and kind of do something. And I was so excited because I've been following him for a while. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then that's when the wine came. And I was kind of messaging back and forth. And at first I was like, is this the real Gary? But I clicked on it. I was like, this is him. I thought it was like a burner account. I was like, no way he's
Yeah.
messaging me. Um, and so like I was just, but then that didn't come to fruition, like for whatever reason, like nothing happened. And then the wine came out. I'm like, I'm gonna be a member because I know I'm gonna do something in the future. And then I was signed with my manager Lloyd Pearson at a different agency. And then in 2020, um, Lloyd actually was going to be the head manager at the combat division for Vayner Sports. And that's my guy. So I'm like, of course, I'm going wherever you go. And then, of course, it's Gary and AJ Vaynerchuk's agency. I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be
Double
great.
whammy.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was insane. So I followed him over. And then, I've been following him for a long time. So it's amazing to be managed by his agency.
Is there
Shout out to Vayner Sports, too, you know?
Vayner Sports? Yeah. Is there There we go. Nice plug. With that, I've never had anyone on that has been represented. Is there anything that Vayner Media is very different? They were kind of cutting edge, did things differently than the old guard. Is there anything that's striking about? I know the manager's the same, but anything from your perspective that they do differently than a traditional agency that
Yeah,
jumps off the page at you?
just things that I've seen, and I've been in the game for a long time, and I have a lot of friends and teammates that are, managed by other people. They're a one-stop shop. They're the best agency in my opinion out there. They have so many people, and it's just like the connections and the doors they can open. Most managers, when it comes to think about like sports, this is what I hear, and this is why I went with Lloyd. He's such a man. He's an amazing person. I talk to so many managers, and they're all about, hey, we'll get you the biggest contract, we'll get you the biggest endorsement. That's it. It's kind of like a used car salesman, in my opinion. Lloyd, when I talk to him, I I don't know. I have like a very good sense of character and stuff like that. And when I talked to Lloyd, we were just talking like this, and I really liked the conversation. And then the one thing that stuck in my head was that made me like, I'm signing with this guy. He said, I want to be along for the long haul after your career. I want to build a relationship, grow together, and be with you after your career. I've never heard a manager say that. And so right then I was like, this is it. Like I'm going with Lloyd. I went with him to that agency. He broke off. He's been talking to Gary and AJ for a long time. And then, it wasn't the right timing. And so then it finally was. And as soon as they made that decision to go over to Vayner Sports, I was there. And even just, being able to like, Gary and AJ, like they're phenomenal people. And it's like I can text them and they'll respond just like that. And it's like I don't want to bother them. That's just how I am. I don't want to bother people. I don't want to ask people for things. But even just talking to them, they're like, anything you need, text me, call me anytime. And it's been so cool. And it's like even just getting to build a relationship with them. And those guys, if you want to follow in anyone's footsteps, Gary and AJ, man, the business advice, them being mentors, even just the friendship that I'm looking to build in the long haul after my career. I literally I can't wait. And I know I'm in the best agency I possibly could. There's no better agency out there.
That's amazing to hear. And it makes so much sense. Like, Gary knows how to squeeze the juice out of moments, i.e., like an athlete's career, but also is smart and mindful enough to know that it only lasts for a short time to build a foundation, to use that moment to build a foundation to follow passions and use that leverage to propel yourself into a whole career of doing things you want to do. And here comes your card business. Speaking of following passions, but real quick, because on April 28th, 2025, you tweeted out, Gary Vee is a visionary who walks the talk. If anyone's building something massive, it's him. Get in on VeeFriends now. I've heard that you were there for me. You didn't necessarily mint on the day, but you were there. Like you knew about
Before.
VeeFriends
Yeah.
before. Like you were there at the table, and ultimately got in. But getting there in 2021 is super early. People getting in on Topps Chrome now are early, but you're
Mhm.
super early. What did you see? Maybe Gary aside, we know Gary. We'll put him over here for a second. You believe in Gary as a visionary, but what did you see in the actual VeeFriends ecosystem project that made you like not only put your money where your mouth is, but just like spend time getting invested into that world?
Man, it's yeah, so like you said, from early on before Mint, I was in, I didn't understand NFTs at the time. And so that's when listening to Gary, listening to his podcast, a lot of things he speaks about, he's like, educate yourself, go down the rabbit hole. I put in hundreds and hundreds of hours educating myself on, NFTs and more Web3 during the pandemic. I was dabbling into crypto here and there. So that's why I just didn't understand it. The JPEGs, I didn't understand the community. Of course, like when you see like founders or big athletes, you think there's a lot of rugs and stuff out there too, where they're just like, um, yeah, they're literally, just because there's a celebrity that's like, I'm creating an NFT project. People would buy into it. So I know people are like bet on the founders, but not that type of founder. Someone just has a big following. But after just watching and not getting in on the mint, but I watched it, of course. I was kicking myself, but it doesn't matter. I'm glad I'm in now because I wouldn't have sold. So even while the price ran up and the market went insane, I still wouldn't have sold. So I would have came right back to where we're at. So I'm happy, and that's how I learn. I have to dive in. I have to do things on myself, and I feel like I have to kind of be hands on. And but watching him build this community of like positivity and kindness, and it's it's absolutely insane. And going to VCons, I wanted to go to the first VCon. I couldn't make it because I had a fight, but I've been to the second and third one, and just seeing how active the community is in the discords, all the partnerships he's done, all the cartoons, the comic books, now Tops Chrome, and look at all this, and this is almost like 4 years to the day. Look what he's built just with VeeFriends, and that's why I'm like, this guy was early in Coinbase, Facebook, Uber, and the list goes on and on. Very brilliant guy. He knows what's going on. I'm saying if anybody can build, in his mind, the next Disney, the Pokemon, Marvel, whatever it may be. If anybody can do this, my money's on Gary, and that's why I'm like, I'm in early, and that's why I'm just telling people get in early. Like I tell all my friends, it's like I'm sure you're the same way. It's like I was talking about crypto and NFTs, and people are like I don't want to hear that. That's why we can go to the Discord now. We can, we're on X. We can message people. We can go to VCon, and people that we share the same passion. We can talk to them about, and that's where when Gary's his famous line about when strangers become acquaintances, acquaintances become friends, friends become family. I literally love it, and everyone a part of VeeFriends and the community. It is just some amazing people, and it's fun to connect with them in person. And so many people have created businesses and things like that. And you would think they were friends or family forever. And they're like, no, we just met a year ago. Like even with
Yep.
my good friend Alex. You guys know him, Doer. Um, we met at the second VCon. So we've only known each other for like 2 years. You know what I mean? And it's like it seems like so long, and he's such an amazing person. And there's so many more people, but I love it. That's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say.
Oh no, I get that, and I feel it. Like I totally get it. But 2 years is like six in Web3 time.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so fun. Uh, cool. I totally forgot this till you mentioned VCon. I'm thinking like UFC. I forgot. I met the Iceman. He was at VCon one. Chuck Liddell, and I had some cards, and oh man, that was a cool moment. So we're in. Speaking of cards, we're in this kind of changing of we're pivoting in VeeFriends lands. We're going from like the alpha era to like the storytelling era. One of the big moments in time is this huge Topps Chrome drop. You're a sketch card artist. You know, you you get the call. What do they ask you to? You ended up doing 20 sketches, which is fantastic. Like, what was your original reaction when VeeFriends reaches out to you? Professional fighter, can you be a professional artist for perhaps our biggest drop of all time?
Yeah. And that's where, yeah, it was kind of short notice. And so I didn't have, and that's where I was like, man, now if I could do a sketch, sketch cards in maybe next year's, I have so many, ideas and stuff that I would do, but I was in a time crunch. I literally had like 2, 3
Yeah.
days. And when I got the call, it was like, we wanted to present you with this opportunity. We don't know if you're even interested. You can do 1 to 20 sketch cards. I said, man, I can't draw for to save the life of me. And they're like, you could just do stick figures. But me being who I am, I'm like, when big opportunities are presented to me, a lot of times I'll just say yes, and then I'll figure it out on the way. That's something I did. I said, screw it. Like I was nervous. I was like, oh man, but if things aren't scaring you and you don't have butterflies, it's like you're probably not going to grow. You're not in the right position. So I was just like, screw it. I said, you know what? Give me 20. Give me all of them. Give me 20 sketch cards. And then I was just like, when I got them, I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I should have took 20 cards. And then I had to do it in
So
like two
ambitious.
days, 2, 3 days. So I put in so many hours practicing. Like my wife is a great artist. She was teaching me like how to draw different lines, all these. I'm telling you, horrible artists. And then I just practiced a ton. And then I just said, screw it. I went straight to the sketch card with the pencil. I would look at some of the computer, or I mean the characters that I want to draw. I would look at them and I would just start sketching it on the card, and then I would go over it with a marker. But I don't even know. I must have put in 20, maybe 20 plus hours in 2 days. But then that's when I put some just words down there too, just because I had to, you know since I was spending so much time drawing these characters. Yeah, it was almost like like a like when Gary started. You know what I mean? It's like it was my Gary sketch one moment and stuff like that. But he's a much better artist than I am. And yeah, but it was tough, and I would do it again. I just hope I have a little more time if there is ever an opportunity. But it was amazing at the end of the day.
Well, VeeFriends, if you're listening, Josh has ideas for 2026. Give him another at bat. We were just talking before we hit record here. Say what you want, but I think you said 4,500 is one was pulled, and it's on eBay right now for 4,500 on May 9th, 2025. So the market is the market.
Yeah. It's the rare robot was actually just pulled yesterday, and so yeah, it's buy now for 4,500, but the bids it starting at 500.
Listen,
So
that could be a
we'll see.
steal. That could be a steal. Um, so fun. It's such a cool honor. And I have to say, as someone that's been watching very closely in this community for a while, it's so refreshing. It's not nice because we attract. Here's my prerogative. Anyone that is a bad actor or not living the traits that the characters do, like they don't stay for long. If anybody wants to wrong anyone, they generally, it's not a place for them to be long term, because people are going to figure out who you are really quick.
Yeah, of
um
course.
but it was so refreshing to see like someone with a microphone as big as yours come in, and your first kind of big splash is at this huge fundraiser for a beloved community member going through a real fight, cancer, and here you come in, just you know, giving your energy, giving your resources, giving your time, auctioning off really cool stuff that people really appreciate it because you're a public figure, but just all for the community, and it says a lot about you, and like those, I'm so excited for that door to keep on inviting people in like yourself, because that's who VeeFriends attracts long term. So thanks for being here, and thanks
No, of
for
course, and
doing
that's
that
the
report.
least I can do. Like she's dealing with the real fight, and and Alex, Jay, and Rob and I or Tom were talking, and then we were trying to schedule something come on, and I was just gonna come on their show and do a little interview, and then I said, oh, how about this day? And they're like, oh, we actually have a big fundraiser that day. We're doing something. Someone in the community, Lex, that is battling breast cancer, and I was like, oh man, tell me about this. And I said, well, I'll hop in the stream for sure. And, I was just going to buy stuff and donate and things like that. And then when I found out exactly what they were doing, I was like, man, I want to help if I can. They're like, oh, we want you to come on. And I said, I don't want to take away from what you guys or what they're trying to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just the least I can do. I do a lot of things for, a thing that is, dear to my heart is especially like I do a lot of stuff for pediatric cancer and stuff. I've donated so much time and whatever I can. I do stuff for veterans and then I do really whatever I can. If anyone asks me for something and it's a great cause, sign me up.
I love that. I love that, Josh. One Punch Cards. So you started One Punch Cards. When did you get were you a collector as a kid? Were you tasting the Fanatics live whatnot stuff now, and you're like, I want to do this. Ripping is so fun. Tell us about how One Punch Cards was birthed.
Yeah, so as a young child, I was actually it's kind of funny. Another thing that comes full circle. I used to ride my bike when I was very young up to local card shop teammates. I bought a lot of 90s basketball. I was a huge collector. So I still have my collection to this day. And it's tons of, 96 basketball and 90s basketball. So I have tons of Kobe rookies, Iverson, Carter, Duncan. The list goes on and on. And so I was a big collector. And then as I started, you know, growing a little, I got a little older. I was working. I didn't have the money to, purchase these cards and stuff like that. I kind of got out of collecting. And then since I'm in a lot of like tops products. I signed for UFC cards, trading cards, and so I thought it was really amazing and it was interesting. I was like, oh, this is great. But when I started signing for these products, my best friend Johnny, my brother, a lot of my friends, they're all buying my rookie sets and my cards on eBay, and they're outbidding each other. And I was the one that they just kept, oh, I bought this. Look at this card. I'm like, man, stop wasting your money on that, you guys. But then it was just fun. So it actually got me back into collecting. And then Alex, when it was the Burbank card show, I was actually down in Anaheim for the fights. It was Volkanovski versus Ilya. The Burbank card show was going on, and he's the card father of the hobby. Alex is like, Eric, who's the UFC card father, huge in the hobby. He had my one of one rookie superfractor, and to complete my rainbow I needed to go down there and get that. So my friend and I, we took a Uber an hour away. We went down there, and Eric was like, man, I'll give you a deal. I'll actually give you, two of these cards. And PSA was there, so I could just drop them off and get them graded. He said, you just have to sign some cards of yours for me, take a picture, give me a good deal. So he gave me a sweet deal. And he's like,
Oh,
you're
nice.
actually the first UFC fighter that's ever come and bought their own card off of me. And he, yeah, an awesome guy too. And so I was just kind of like hooked. And I collect a lot of my one-on-ones. So I have my two of my rookie rainbow sets completed. I just completed another rainbow of the royalty cards. It's like iMac. It just came out. Like it's a top-notch UFC product, I believe. So yeah, I've just been a collector. And a funny thing is, my best friend, he's huge into the hobby, and he's been telling me like, that's start breaking, let's do this on like YouTube and all that, like back in the day, because he wants to open a brick and mortar. He wants to open a card shop. They've been looking at places for a long time. And this is how it is. Since I'm into the V Friends, when Gary went on first on Whatnot, and he's doing his first show on
Right.
there, I'm showing my buddy. I'm like, hey, like we got to get on this Whatnot. He's like, I'm on Whatnot, and so as we're driving to lunch, I'm having him create an account, a Whatnot account for me. I'm giving him my card. He's just signing me up. I start watching the first, V Friends on Whatnot with Gary, and I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. I'm like, I want to do this. Like, is it like check this out? And Johnny's like, yeah, I've been watching Whatnot for a long time. It's always like this. That's why I've been telling you for years. I want you to break, and that's kind of how that started. So we literally got going pretty quick. We have a big guy that's in the UFC community and hobby. His name's Chicken, one of one. He actually, he helped us get started. And this going back to Alex as well. Alex, he was up at my house, and we did just him and I, we were doing a little pack war out of this hobby box. And he's like, man, you guys should really start breaking. And I was like, I didn't really know. And then he connected us to Chicken. Chicken sent us out a brand new case. It would be like, VFriends Tops Chrome dropping, and Gary just
Yeah.
sending you, or a friend just sending you a case. He sent us a case, and he said, I want you to do the entire hobby boxes just um, as raffles. So whoever won it, boom, you won a hobby box. We'd rip it for him. He gave us, just to get started. We started. It was an entire case of cards,
Wow.
and just for free. He never met us, just from the one Zoom call we had, and Alex vouching for me. And then we were kind of hooked from there. We went on his channel and did this. And then my friend and I, we went to the local card shop, and we're like, let's see if they have a case. They had one case. We're like, should we just start our channel today? And we're like, screw it, give us the case. We bought a case, and then we went home, and we just went on like a pop-up night, sold out. And we're like, and that's kind of how that started 7.5, almost 8 months ago. We started it, and then we obviously turned it into a business. And yeah, it's like we're so excited for the future. And this is going back to what you were saying with Vayner Sports. Gary or AJ actually connected me to Fanatics, and so they grilled us. We were meeting. It was my buddy Johnny and I. We were meeting with all these people from Fanatics. They asked for a strategic growth plan, and then that's his world. So he's a consultant for a big company, and so he drafted all this up, and they were very impressed. Even I just wanted to send it to AJ at first. I was like, AJ, what do you think about this? And he said one correction, and that's where I had Clay Guida, because we had him on the show. He said I would just put an arrow pointing that this is UFC fighter Clay Guida out of a 27-page growth plan. AJ's like, this is really good. And so we sent that over to him, had a few more meetings, and then what do you know? We're partnered with Fanatics Live. We
Fanatics
got on
Live.
that platform, and we have a direct allocation, but it's for the combat division. So like UFC, but we're trying to branch into all um, cards, but I'm going to stick predominantly with UFC. My friend, and we're hiring some other friends as well we're going to do everything. Basketball, baseball, football, TCG. I want to just do UFC and V Friends. Like I've been wanting to get these cases, and it's so tough to get them. But
Yeah.
I would love to just break some V Friends.
Well, listen, I have. I have a little bit of context on the UFC card world. Like they're just as rabid, if not more so, than the VeeFriends crew.
Well,
Um,
insane.
like I'm in the Facebook groups. I have my 2009 round one sets. Like I have a little
Nice.
context. So super cool.
I got a box
So yeah,
stashed
we're
away
gonna.
too.
I still have my eBay alerts. Like one day I'll have a sealed one. But for right now, just the completed sets. That Rogan was going wild for a little bit. I thought about selling off the Rogans, but
I
I
wouldn't do it.
kept it together.
Smart man.
Kept it together. So fun. So yeah, guys, One Punch Cards, whatnot, Fanatics Live, so fun, Josh. I really appreciate you talking. If you have 2 minutes, I'd like to do one final segment here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Before that, I always like to ask. We've talked about empathy, elephant. You have a lot of empathy. You have a lot of resiliency, accountability, all so many of the great traits. But is there one character that you need to spend more time with?
Hmm. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. I guess uh, patient. No, I'm just thinking. Because I'm not like very. I'm not a patient person. That's why I'm like when I want something, I want it now, and it's hard for me. But I really do need to spend time with a character that has, so I can take that energy and learn how to be more patient. That's something that's extremely hard for me. Um, not in a bad way. It's like it's just I am not patient like that. That's so I need to learn how to be more patient.
I love that. I believe me. I feel it. I feel it too. If you have time, 2 minutes, last segment. I call it micro macro. So I'm going to throw out a lot of rapid fire questions, and you can answer super general, one word in the macro, or you can get your microscope out and explain why, elaborate why your answer is what it is. All right. So here we go. Micro macro spitfire with Josh Emmett. Favorite teacher you had growing up, and one reason why.
Yeah, it's not too rapid fire. Damn. Uh,
You're fast. All good. What was your favorite IP as a kid? Favorite show or cartoon or brand as a kid growing up?
X-Men. It's Marvel.
Favorite movie?
Gladiator.
If we walked in a 15-year-old Josh's room, what poster's on the wall?
Probably a Carmen Electra poster.
Yeah, I had one. I had a Carmen Electra. I swear to God, that's so funny.
You know the one.
What's your all-time favorite UFC fight to watch as a fan?
Man, I love the Robbie Lawler and Roy McDonald. It was just because the heart that they showed, it was absolutely insane, and they were both there was no quit in them, and it resonated with me so much. And I was saying like I want to have those type of fights where it's just like you're not going to get me out of there, you're not going to break me.
I love that. If it was illegal to have more than one social media platform, which one would you keep?
X.
Um, in my head it's Bruce Buffer announcing the name, but is there like one specific like singular moment or ritual before a fight that just kind of gets you like totally in the zone, like totally amped?
It's something I would do with a mind coach. It's when I have a little time, I don't like to be alone. Like I always like to be around like my wife or just like my circle and close friends and family that are out there for the fight. But there's a little part of me I have to do every time. Like a lot of people don't know I do this, but I have to be by myself, and it's like I'm prepping my mind. I'm prepping like what could happen in the fight, and I fully accept it. I want to, I'm like, bring it, like bring whatever you can, whether it's yeah, it's just a wild thought process that I go through, but I welcome everything, and I'm willing to literally go through anything to get my hand raised. And I don't just say that. I know a lot of people say that, but yeah, I'm ready. I'm prepping myself for the worst and the best.
Favorite concert you've ever been to?
And one of my first concerts, all right, and actually I'm gonna go favorite concert. It was my wife and I went to, this is a long time ago, it was Justin Timberlake, but it was when Timberland was with them, and it's like Pink opened for him, and then Timberland came on stage. This is a long time ago. This is like I don't even know, it must have been 18 years ago or something like that. Or that was fun. We were on the floor. It was like a club. I wasn't really looking forward to it, and then that was the most fun I ever had at a concert.
That sounds like a cool set. You know, Timberland goes live on X every night, and
No, I didn't know
people,
that.
it's so cool. I'm not a music person at all, but people will send him songs. He'll listen to them. If they get picked, he listens to them on air and he gives them live feedback right on the
Oh
spot
wow,
every night. It's fascinating.
I'm gonna check that
Uh,
out.
yeah, it's super cool just to see how his mind works. A bougie hotel or hiking and camping in the woods?
Bougie hotel.
Wine, beer, or coffee?
What's that?
Wine, beer, or coffee?
Man, that's so hard. Like I can cut out the beer, but it's like my wife and I are wine and coffee connoisseurs. So man, that would be tough. I'd have to if I had to choose between one. I'm going with coffee, of course, because I don't drink wine all the time. But when I do drink wine, we drink the best wine. So I'm like, if I'm gonna poison myself, we're drinking the good stuff.
I love that. Two more. Would you rather have a 2 hour group dinner experience, you and eight buddies with Gary, or would you rather have a 10-minute one-on-one session with him?
Probably a 2 hour. Like I'd rather just yeah. Eh, that's a tough one. No, yeah, probably now. I'd probably just do a 2 hour with all my buddies and Gary, just so we could all so everyone's winning. You know.
And you know, when the VFam or when the UFC crew is talking about Josh Emmett in 55 years, when everyone knows about VeeFriends, what do you want them to say about you? How do you want to be remembered?
They'll say the same things. You go in and you talk to anyone from the UFC, or people that I interact with, and it's like my legacy. It's like I just want to be remembered as a good person and someone that was always there when they needed them, and you know, same time like yeah. So it's just I don't know, just nothing but good stuff when my name is mentioned. They'll just, man, he was such a great guy, and yeah, I'd rather that than any other achievements or things. Even though I have really high hopes and goals set, but that means more to me.
Josh, this has been a complete pleasure. So nice to chop it up with you. I really am grateful for your time and willingness to, yeah, shed some light on the man behind the PFP, behind One Punch Cards, behind the persona we all see in the octagon. So we're so happy that you're here in the V fam, and looking forward to many more fights and many more V Friends moments with you.
Oh man, no, I had a blast chatting with you, Rob, and I can't wait to officially meet you in person.
Yes, it'll happen. It'll happen.
And then as
All right.
far we're gonna go on tonight, or we're gonna go on tonight and do some yeah. So like I was saying, we are on Fanatics Live as well too. So we've been on there. Whatnot
Okay,
Fanatics
so
Live.
you're official now. Got it.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, we've been on there for a little bit, but I always say for people that want to like kind of follow along, like follow, my socials, Josh Emmett UFC, and then One Punch Cards as well on all platforms, and even my website, joshemmett.com. I have a lot of things that my buddy kind of updates, and it's almost like a time capsule. They can go back and read a lot of articles, so it's pretty cool what he's doing over there.
Amazing.
Thank you for having me on.
Uh, Anytime, man. Anytime. Can't wait to meet you, IRL.
I know, right? All right, Rob, you
All
have a
right.
good one. Nice chatting with
Thanks,
you.
Josh. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet.